was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in. It's a long 12 hours, the power's out again. I pray for inner strength and that we don't lose no lives. Just another day in the first responders' eyes. Half a cup of coffee's gone, the first run comes in. A car slid off the road, there's a family trapped within. My heart beats like a hammer, I can barely catch my breath. I'm thinking the worst and hoping for the best. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on when those sirens are gone.
Hey, welcome to the award-winning Mad Radio Show with John and Sam. We are all about healing our heroes and making the best of bad situations. We want to welcome everybody to the show today, and we're going to bring the best of mental health to you, how as we see it and how we feel that it should be addressed in many departments across the nation. You agree, Sam?
Absolutely. Hey, John, it's great to see you. And, you know, May being Mental Health Awareness Month, we started this month with Mike Barron from the Police Blues magazine. Incredible articles written by John, the amazing John. I guess I should point this way. The amazing John. Fantastic article. Our friend, Dr. Tina Jekyll. And,
Yep.
you know, so it's out there, but it's out there every month. And it just seems that as we open one door and we have, and the amazing department in Lindale, Texas, we had fantastic first responder 2-day workshop out there. And so we open those doors, and then, you know, we're trying to get in with another department, and that door seems to be cracked open just a smidge. And then others are just, you know, slammed tight. And it is a very interesting time because the violence isn't getting any better. I mean, it's tough to start your day looking at all the line of duty deaths. And we know that post-traumatic stress in general, it comes with the turf, because as we talk about in our workshops is that we are not trained to deal with the stress in a career that lasts 2 or 3 decades. It's just not talked about.
Well, you know, on that note, Sam, we're the human mind is not capable of dealing with the stress that we handle on, not even in decades, on a daily basis without proper processing. You look at, and on behalf of Mad Radio, you know, our hearts and our thoughts and prayers go out to all the victims in Buffalo, New York, that were killed by a white supremacist who decided to take people out. I mean, that's sad in one thing. When you look at the officers that responded, you know, to see one deceased body, you know, now you have 10 and another 6 that are severely injured. That is a lot of trauma all coming in at one time. And I hope and I pray that Buffalo is doing something for these officers to help them process through this, because each individual officer that responded is going to have an emotional aspect of that's going to affect their mind, you know, in different ways. So just a crisis intervention team coming in to discuss the situation is one thing, but individuality is very
Follow-up.
important, huh?
It's the
And
follow-up,
follow-up is
right?
so very important. And I think that's where we start to fail.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have seen it personally. We've been in that place where it's like, okay, they've got the CISM, the crisis intervention team right there, whether it's to deal with a fellow officer's unfortunate passing, whether it's line of duty or suicide, and or this kind of crisis that you're dealing with. And then it's like, okay, everybody go back to work. I mean, you've been through it, I've been through it, and it's like, hey, what happens when the brain can't, we all have a stress response, totally normal. Everybody has a reaction to the stress. But what happens after that 3-week, that 4-week, that 5-week? And that's where our follow-up is really bad. And that's where the awareness and the education comes in. And, the suicide rate in law enforcement at first responders is not the numbers aren't going down. They're going up. We know, and we talk about this every week, that there are still departments that are not reporting not reporting the deaths as suicides because they don't want to, they mistakenly think it's a black eye or some kind of, it will be bad for the department if we put it out there that this happened to one of our officers, and Karen's on right now. She's like,
Yeah, I just saw that. I just saw Karen pop
3
on.
yesterday. And it is heartbreaking because there are so many people, like our next guests, that are working so hard to not only make the conversation around mental health, brain health, call it whatever you want, to normalize it, because it exists in the first responder community.
Well, I don't mean to cut you off, but since Karen's on, I want to give a shout out to Blue Help out of Massachusetts. They do a lot. They do a lot of healing, but they are a data collecting agency. So if you really want a reality punch in the face,
Check.
go on to Blue Help's website and look at their dashboard. They have the dashboard. The numbers are they're close, but I mean, there are a lot of unreported, but it breaks down from age. It breaks down from rank, years of service. I mean, you will see straight up what's going on. And I think Blue Help did an amazing job breaking this all down and gathering all these statistics, but if they present these statistics to people and the upper chiefs are not doing anything about it, that's failure on the chief's part. That's failure on the department's part, because, agencies like Blue Help and us, Badge of Honor, and everybody else that are coming to these departments and saying, hey, we have an issue. And if they choose to shut that door and slam it, you know what? Now it's time for us to call them out and say, hey, listen, you're not being a proactive chief. You're not being mentally healthy on your officers. The rub dirt on it and walk it off is a culture 3 generations ago. Right. We need to start building a better culture within our first responder community.
Absolutely, and it goes beyond that, because John, as you talked about and you wrote about in an article, you talk about the ripple effect. There's a fantastic book out there, The Ripple Effect. It talks about one person's suicide and how it has an effect that just goes out. I often talk about it when I'm talking to recruit classes so they can truly understand. And our guest tonight, God bless her, because she is in the thick of it with those that are left behind, and really caring, wrapping her arms, her and her staff, around the families that have been affected by law enforcement suicide, and is really, I see it as the website's phenomenal. It's almost like the visualization where you've had an officer die by suicide, and the family's in this small boat in this turbulent just water that's just smashing them from either side, and they can't get their bearings straight. They're trying to get back to land. And here comes Laurie and her staff at Survivors of Blue Suicide as like a lighthouse. And from this lighthouse, the beam comes out, and it's like a magnet. And it's like, this way, come this way. We've got you here.
Wow.
And when the boat comes in, they're there to help right the ship, to provide that safety net so that the survivors don't get lost. So they're not a statistic. Like maybe their loved one is, you know, and I mean, it's a terrible thing, but
you just described that so well. That gave me, let me tell you something. You just described that perfectly, because that gave me chills. And the way you were describing it, just, I mean, I visualized it. I'm like, wow, I could see this boat in the turbulent water, and then being, you know, having them just come to us and like a safety net, like, oh, land, like, oh my God, there's hope, there's help, there's healing, you know? So you,
well, good. Maybe I'll write that down. And I'm not going to say anything more. We're just going to bring Laurie on. Everybody, Mad Radio, welcome Laurie Putnam. She is the Director of Services for Survivors of Blue Suicide, and you are the safety net. I first of all, give us your background, tell us how you got to where you are, and then we'll go into some specific questions.
Okay.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Sam and John, for having me on tonight. I'm Laurie Putnam. I started working for Concerns of Police Survivors in 2009, and COPS has been around for a really long time, helping survivors of line of duty death throughout the country and its territories by offering programs, retreats for survivors, a big major contributor to National Police Week, helping survivors file benefits. The list is endless: scholarships, counseling reimbursement. So I started working there in 2009, and quickly after that started working directly with survivors and agencies after a line of duty death. So I worked with the over 55 COPS chapters, which are made up of survivors on the grassroots level that will respond to agencies. So on the national level, I helped a lot with survivors filing benefits, talking to agencies after they experienced a line of duty death on next steps and how to take care of your families, and just was really on the front lines of line of duty death, and continued working there. And, you know, would get calls from survivors of law enforcement suicide saying, is there a COPS for us? You know, where can we go to the programs? Well, as you know, COPS doesn't define line of duty death, but there's a lot of definitions of line of duty death out there and a lot of different organizations. So it didn't fit in the COPS criteria. But the COPS National Board and Danny Overly, the conversation was going on. How can we help? How can we help survivors? And then all the stars aligned, and the National Board approved a separate sister organization offering the same programs and services as COPS does, but for law enforcement suicide families. So that's my background. That's what got me here. And we started this with Shelly Jones, who was my director of operations at the time.
I'm bad at interrupting. I just want to cut you off real quick, because I just want to clarify something, because you said the same services as COPS. COPS is brought, you know, had this branch off for the same services of suicide, families for suicide. Are they the same services though? So they're not the same benefit packages, and they're not.
No.
So
they're not. So COPS offers retreats for survivors. So they have like what they would refer as do hands-on programs. They have a spouses retreat. They actually, I think, have 13 retreats now for adult children, young children, siblings, spouses, parents, in-laws. So they have what they refer to as hands-on programs. So what we mean by services and support is that we're offering these programs. Because we're 2 years old, we just start with our biggest groups, which is spouses, parents, and coworkers. And then we add retreats as funding and as those survivor groups increase. So that's what I mean by services through COPS, is that those programs, that peer support is really what we're all about, because we're here for the postvention. The suicide has happened. Now we're taking in these families, these agencies, these coworkers, these kids, and giving them the peer support and the healing that they need. So that's what I mean by services.
Now, when you speak to a lot of these families, and I'm sure you get the same thing over and over again, because we had a suicide here in our own backyard not too long ago, and he was a 27 year veteran, very had a lot of friends, had a lot of and after the suicide, his family kind of got alienated from a lot of the department, a lot of his friends. So it leaves the wife and the child and the children, going, whoa, I'm not being invited to the barbecues anymore. I'm not being invited to the family dinners anymore. So my nucleus or my everything's, so we've stamped the family again with the stigma of the suicide, instead of, they react a couple of months and then they out of sight, out of mind, Are you feeling the same thing with this, getting that same feeling from the survivors' families you deal with?
Yes. Some agencies do a really great job. And the ones that do a really great job, they deserve those kudos. The ones that, where the families are feeling left out, like they've already lost a loved one, they've lost a best friend or a son or a husband, a dad or a mom, and then they've lost their blue family. When you're a cop and you're in a cop's family, you guys know how it is. It's everybody. It's your whole family.
Right.
And, you're cut off from your benefits immediately. It's like no one wants to talk to you. No one wants to say the word suicide. No one wants to. It's like this very uncomfortable, why aren't we talking about it? Why isn't anybody acknowledging it? I don't know if they think, you said something in the opening, like they're going to get a black mark, like somebody is going to think, oh, if we do a nice funeral or if we honor this, then more people are going to do it. Like, no, that's not what's happening out there. These officers are in trauma. They've experienced it. You guys have both experienced it. Look at your careers that have lasted years and what comes with that. And then the families, like, kids and spouses and parents are like, where's the agency? It's starting with the funeral. Like, where are the honors? Where are they talking about the life that he lived instead of how he died? Like, that's what we're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be talking about the great service to the community and to the country, and what's happened to all that just because the word suicide. That was super important to us to put suicide in our name. We really wanted it because we didn't want to put the stigma further out there. So we went survivors of blue suicide. There it is. It's out there. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. I have to ask the question, being that, we do a lot with social media, websites, the whole thing is, because you guys made it a point to use the word suicide in your website. Are you having any kind of bizarro suppression of, depending on which site, I don't want to say it because I don't want this to get taken down.
Right.
But because we have had shows, held up, and one was actually removed and for some verbiage. Do you have that?
Yeah, we've come across it on a couple different platforms. The website doesn't seem to really, through the data of it, doesn't really seem to get stopped anywhere, because it's pretty specific. People are looking it up specifically, so I think it comes up that way. But there are some other platforms where you're talking about it and it doesn't come up because, again, we're talking about that stigma. It's like, oh, that word, and somebody behind a computer or screen or whatever is saying, okay, no, just that word's in there. Let's not even open up. And
well,
look at
it's actually two or three words. It's the word suicide and then police or law enforcement in that sentence. Because if you're talking about a teenager or somebody else that doesn't wear the badge, they're going to allow that because it's, we're concerned about mental health.
Yeah. And, a lot when the news media does publish it, like in papers or online, I mean, we all notice the big italic print at the top of where to call, and it's always at the very bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that it's died suddenly, even if it's not in there, but it's, they always make sure to put that, where to call, where to get help, and all of that. So, we have found, but when this founding committee was talking and, going through what we wanted to accomplish long term and what we were doing, it was important to put it in the name. It was important to us and the survivors that we're talking about it and that we're going to be here for them, and we're not scared of the word, and it's not a black mark next to your name.
Well, thank you for
I don't want to use the I hate to use the word normalize.
Yeah.
Normalize it, but it's come to the point where we have to normalize the conversation. We have to normalize the conversation to a point where we feel very comfortable speaking with it. And like you said, when people don't know how to react to families or how to speak. I mean, what do you say? How do I approach this? But if we start teaching and bringing the awareness and bringing all this forward, it's okay to say, to walk up to a family member and go, "I'm sorry, I didn't see the signs. I missed them. I didn't see I didn't see him battling or her battling." And that's perfectly okay. That's a normal conversation. But people are afraid to say stuff like that. People are afraid to say, he was all, whatever. But it's okay, and it's okay to bring those things up, at the right moment, at the preceding moment. They'd rather hear that than be shunned.
Right.
Yeah. Than not hear anything at all.
Right.
Right.
I mean, death is very awkward as a society. People are very uncomfortable about death. That's when all the things start coming out, all the odd things like, "Oh, you're young." Like, no, that's not a good thing to say. "I'm sorry. I'm here for you. We're thinking of you. We love you." All of these acceptable things, just say something. Just show up and say something. And just show up. You don't have to say anything. Just show up. Be there because it's so. I wish I could just broadcast it globally and
see. There's also
you kind of are right now.
Oh yeah.
So that's good. That's good. I want to ask you from the family's point of view, what's the hardest part for them after obviously losing their loved one to suicide, but following that?
I
tell you,
it's so much. It's why, the grief, the pain, the trauma, some would say how the agency handled it. Some wouldn't because they handled it great. Some agencies out there are doing a great job. But it's painful. I see them every week. We do Zoom sessions just about every week. And it's the pain, no one else understanding and then no one talking about it. I just see it in their eyes, but I also see, back when we first started doing these, specifically, I tell her story all the time. So she just would sit in there like this, just completely, just almost like zoned out. And now she's like, "How are you? Like, let's talk about it." Like, you see that change, but you also see that pain. And that's what we're helping them through, that we're giving them a peer support network where, they're on Zoom, but they connect with each other outside of that. So in their daily life, that's why we started these Let's Just Talk. It's because grief changes. It can change every day.
Right.
You're there for the long road. It's always going to be there, but some days are bad and some days, you're okay. That's what we give them, peer support from other people that can say, "I truly understand what you're going through. I know what it's like to lose a child to suicide. I know what it's like to lose a spouse. or a fiance or a boyfriend or girlfriend to suicide. And that's the conversation that we're allowing them to have. And through those talks is so much healing and so much love and compassion that just brings us joy. And that right there is worth it, because they're getting help and they're able to talk about it in a safe, confidential place where,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But
So
I'm gonna rewind you for 1 second, because I'm very jaded now. I am, because it pisses me off. Not about you, but these departments piss me off. When you said a lot of departments are doing great things, right? I'm sorry, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to any department, but you know what? No, they're not. They're not, because if they were doing great things, we wouldn't be doing things after the fact. We'd be doing things before. We would recognize the signs, the symptoms. We'd be there throughout the whole thing. We'd have the programs in place. We'd have because suicide is preventable. If it's predictable, it's preventable. If we can predict that somebody's having an issue, if we can train our officers how to handle and cope with stress, and we get more involved and stop worrying about the woke crowds and stop worrying about the, oh my God,
politicians.
The officer said the wrong thing, you know what, and stop worrying more and taking more of an interactive life in their family. You know what? We will save lives that way. You know what?
Absolutely.
So that, to me, when departments are doing great things after the fact, it's a knee-jerk reaction at the wrong time. You know what? You should have been doing great things prior. So, you know,
I agree with that. And I think there's a ton of different conversations. I guess when I mean, like, just to kind of clarify that, like, doing great, they're doing great for their families. That's
no.
But they do need to do better, because look at this. I mean, look at the world. They have to wear body cams. Could you imagine if I went to work every day and I had a camera recording everything I do? That's stressful right there. How are people going to take that? And then you're in these situations where you have a second to think, not even a second, and you have to make a decision. And sometimes that's life or death, and it's under a microscope. That's stress. Then you put in the physical, you put in the long hours, you put in the no one's in the academy right now, so now you're working overtime, and you take all these, and that's what you get, the cumulative stress. And that's when, you know, things start to go downhill.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what is, we'll fast forward now that we've backed up, we'll fast forward. And I wanted to ask a follow-up. So I asked you what's the toughest for the surviving family members. What's the toughest for you and your staff?
You know, sometimes you feel like you're running through mud. Does that make sense? Like you take one step forward and you get knocked 10 steps back. We're going to go out there and we're going to try every single day for these families. Every single day, we're going to push through the stigma. We're going to get to the departments. We hear about them. We follow up. We're calling. We're emailing. We're working, you know, all these hours, because it's just Shelly and I. So it's just the two of us managing the organization at this point. You know, growing this during COVID, and, you know, we're just going to still keep pushing and keep having the conversation and keep being there for these families through our retreats, through Zoom, through everything. And, you know, I love what I do. I'm extremely passionate about law enforcement. I'm extremely passionate about taking care of them and taking care of their families. It's what I've dedicated a large portion of my career to, is helping this. And we're not going to stop. We're going to keep on. We're going to keep on doing it until something changes. Eventually, it's got to go the other way.
What do you do for you?
So go ahead. Oh, so thanks, John. Sorry. So we have a lot of questions for you. So when does a family reach out to you, or let's say you just happen to catch wind of an officer that dies by suicide, the name is released? Do you try and contact the family? How does that work?
So we sometimes we're contacted by the agency. We have a form on our website that an agency can actually report and give us information about the family, to connect with the family at a suitable time, which is following the funeral. But we'll reach out to the agency and let the agency know about our services, know how to get a hold of us, and they send the information on to the families. Sometimes we're contacted by families that have heard about us just from other police officers, word of mouth. But we really try hard to get in touch with the departments. And that's what I mean, like, we just keep trying and following up. Like, we're here. We don't want anything from you. Like, just give us the family information, or give our information to the family is most of the time what they do. So that way they can contact us, or, we can reach out to them. So
how about on a retired aspect, on the retired officers?
Yeah. So we do take care of the families of active and retired law enforcement. Doesn't matter the year. They could have died 30 years ago, and we would take care of their family. We do have families that are about 25 years, I think, is the longest out from suicide. Because, I mean, if you think about, we're not talking about it now. Think about 25 years ago,
right?
What they were dealing with.
Yeah.
So finally an opportunity to talk about it and kind of help others, when they hit that 1 year mark or that 3 year mark, those, graduations, weddings, all these things come up. So it's good to have that peer support.
Now, within your organization, because me and Sam talk about this a lot, because we all pull on the secondary trauma, because obviously, you just said it's just you and somebody else doing this, right? As you grow, you're hearing a lot, you're absorbing a lot. I know you have that hypervigilant state in where we just keep going and keep going and keep going, but one day that crashes down. We've all been there. How do you and your partners, cope with the stress of all these families? Because you're taking on a big burden. You're taking on a lot. I mean, you're healing and you're helping, but what are you guys doing for you as an organization?
So we have a survivor advisory council that we have kind of divided up to cover the country. So that kind of helps with talking to survivors, but self-care, we teach it, and I've fallen down that hole before with compassion fatigue. That's the number one thing that you have to watch out for is, you have to take a break. You're no good to somebody else if you can't do it. And that's been a really tough lesson for me to learn. And I have learned it the hard way. So now I just kind of tell myself, like, you need a break. You need to walk away. You need to step away. I also have great mental health support where I have a dumping ground where I can dump and get it out and,
Awesome.
work through it that way emotionally, because you do start to take it on. You don't mean to, but you do. And you get so passionate about it that you're in this tunnel, and that's when eventually you're going to fall down. So we really do try to tell ourselves, like, and we're pretty good at bossing each other, like, you need to take some time, or,
that's good.
You need to relax, or, you need to step away in order to be good for other people. But we also have like a great national board that's very supportive of us. The Survivor Advisory Council that are helping survivors every day, they're very supportive. So although we're the two paid staff members, we're all like a giant family, a giant team, kind of tackling this together. So that's great.
That's good.
It's been great.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that, because that worries me a lot, especially with all these, with a lot of the organizations, is, you know what? You have the compassion, you have the empathy, you have the drive, the passion, all of that. And then, I just worry about the people that are healing are not being healed themselves. And like I said, we forget because we start taking on too much. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, wait, time for myself. But when?
Yep.
So
when.
Glad
That's
to hear
exactly
that.
right. When. I'm a big vacation planner, so I've got them on the book.
There you go. Great. Well, let's talk a little bit about the services that you offer, because you touched on the retreats. So tell us a little bit about how your organization, SBS, Survivors of Blue Suicide, what are the different things that you guys offer to the families?
Okay. So we host up to 4 Zoom calls a month. So we're offering that peer-to-peer connect. It is always facilitated by a mental health professional or a trained peer support professional. One of those, on the second Tuesday of every month, we do an educational session. So we have a facilitator on there that's giving education about grief and that journey and the different facets of what they're going through. For programs this year, we just had our first coworkers retreat. It was actually funded by Motorola. We did that in April. We have spouses retreat in June, and then parents retreat is in October. Those retreats are free. So all that the survivors have to worry about is their flight cost or the driving cost to the facility. Once they get to the airport, everything else is on us. So food, activities, lodging, everything like that. It's a great healing weekend. Then we last year started the National Suicide Survivors Conference and Memorial event. So this year we're doing a second year. It's going to be July 23rd and 24th in Indianapolis, where we have a conference day for survivors, where we have speakers that are coming to do the uplifting. We're talking about grief, individual sessions. We're talking about trauma. You know, we're going to help the survivors through our conference and through our sessions. We also do a blue light vigil where we're actually honoring the officers that have died by suicide. And how we do that is if a family member attends, we will honor that officer. So we don't just have like a big list that we're honoring. So if a family member attends, we'll honor that officer. And then we have our memorial event during that weekend, where we have our granite memorial movable wall that we've engraved the officers' names on to honor them and the lives that they lived. So it's a great healing weekend of honoring their loved one and getting together in that peer support and the sessions from our mental health professionals.
So can people go on to the website and find information about that? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm putting this on the comment stream. So
now, when it comes to the children of suicide survivors, suicide families, do you have separate things for the children, counseling? And because this is where, you know, a spouse can cope and figure stuff out, but a child, they're always asking themselves why they don't get that closure. So what kind of
during our conference this year, we will have a kids program. So if spouses or parents are traveling with younger kids, we will have a separate program for them with law enforcement, a mental health professional, where they'll be together as kids, you know, one another. We had kids last year, and we really got to spend a lot of good time with these kids and really hear and hear what they wanted and what they need to talk about. And so we are doing that this year during our conference. And then probably in the next 2 years, we'll add a kids camp. So we'll be doing a camp for kids, just like our retreats. It's all on us, but for 6 to 14 years old, in that age range, doing a camp for them.
Now you had mentioned a co-workers retreat. When we talked a bunch of months ago, I found this very interesting because we were talking before the show, and the departments are just like, okay, we had a death, whether they declare a line of duty or not, and it's get back to work. And so what kind of things are you addressing? First of all, how'd you get the idea to do a coworkers? Because I think that's so unique and it's very well needed.
Yeah, it's a program that COPS offers that they started doing. I think the first one was in 2013 or 2014. And then we saw a huge need for it because we had all these coworkers kind of signing up with us. And we got them on Zoom, but, their schedules are odd, but, we kind of created that. And then just seeing the need for it, the coworkers really, I mean, they're struggling. This after a suicide, I mean, they're struggling. And a lot of times they don't say anything. They just go back to work and keep on keeping on. So we wanted to offer that program because they asked. The coworkers were coming to us, and
Wow.
so it was a great program. You know, we keep our programs completely confidential. There's no information given about them. An agency can call and say, "Hey, did my guy come?" And I'll be like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
I work at Dairy Queen. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. And you know how it is when cops hear retreat, they think the first thing I always say is it's not kumbaya. We're not like that. But it's, you know, it's for them to be able to address what's really going on, giving them an opportunity to talk, and then for us to tailor the sessions like what they need help with. Stress, trauma, and sleep. How many cops sleep? None of y'all sleep.
Not well.
Not well at all. But to give them, you know, tools that they need.
You just said it again with the kumbaya, right? And that it all goes back to, what are we training our officers? You know, we're setting them up for failure. The culture, right? Because you're 100% right. When you speak to a lot of officers, you say, "Hey, you know, we have this retreat coming up." They think, "Oh, I'm not getting in yoga pants and doing this whole mom." Yeah,
I know.
They're just not doing it. You know, and right there, they've already turned themselves off on it. They've already closed their minds to say, you know, I don't need a retreat.
Hey, I'm not going to any retreat that you got to wear yoga pants.
But
yeah.
You know,
yes, retreat. I mean, but yeah. So what? Let's unveil exactly what it is.
Off the trees and hugging. It's just
exactly.
So Laurie, take away the mystery.
You really have to unpack it for cops.
Yeah.
They have to know. You guys have to know exactly what you're going into. Like, what are we going to expect? Like, here's this organization. We're going to an airport. They're taking us by bus. We're going out in rural Oklahoma. Why are they taking us there? Because there's no TVs in the rooms. There's outdoors. You can actually breathe. We do physical activities. So they climbed a tower. They jumped off a giant rope swing. They kayaked. They sat by the lake. They got a chance to talk to each other and get through it. And then we went to session. Yeah, we do have a campfire.
I'm there.
Yeah.
See,
and you can wear whatever you want.
I'm not. She already told me there's no TVs.
Oh, please.
Don't tell them that. Let them find that out when they get there.
Campfire is your television.
Yeah.
No, because every cop is going to go, "There's no TV. No, I'm sorry. The Yankee game's on this week, or the football game's on."
Hey, we're not in New York. It's Oklahoma.
There are TVs, just not in your room.
No, okay.
Right.
Y'all have trouble sleeping anyway.
True.
But it's actually like when they came, we're like, I mean, what did you guys think about this? You can wear whatever you want. We don't require or ask for the yoga pants, but they were like, you know, it's kind of different. You have to gain their trust, and we did. Like,
yes,
that's what we're here to do. You have to get them in. You have to get them talking. They have to know that they can trust you and trust your people. We did that. And it was a very successful retreat with actually like emails came in that made me weep. Like lives saved that weekend.
Wow.
Lives saved.
That's now, like when you have the retreat, you have people that don't know each other, right? From different departments that are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it to me, and it usually will turn out good after the campfire or whatever, probably, and people start opening up a little bit with that one person. But it's like a bad prom where the guys are on one side, the girls are on the other, right? And you know, nobody really wants to talk. They want that first
icebreaker.
Person. What do you do? Exactly, Sam. What do you do for that icebreaker moment where you're like, okay, here we go?
Yep. It's always the first night. It's always after dinner on the first night. And it always just kind of comes naturally. I've done a lot of these programs in my years. it really does kind of come naturally where you're sitting around, you're kind of going over the weekend, you're going over the agenda, and then somebody makes a really bad joke or a really good joke and it gets funny. And that's my personality. I'm more the joker, the kidder. I'm the yes person. So I always say, like, if you want something, ask me. I'm the yes person. I can't say no to survivors. It's a thing. But it kind of just goes naturally. I think with our personalities, with them, they've already kind of gotten a taste because I've emailed them or I've talked to them on the phone. So they kind of know I'm very detail oriented. So I think they have an idea, but I think it's about how we approach it. It's us breaking the ice because we're making it comfortable for them. And sometimes the best way to do that with cops is humor. That's the best way to do it.
That's all.
And to make sure they know it's confidential. Like that's another big thing is got to keep it confidential. So I know nothing. I see nothing.
No, that is a big thing with a lot of our officers. We see it in our workshops. They want to make sure that the confidentiality is really held to a high standard, because so many of them have been burned by their own departments, and their EAP programs that are out there that just end up burning their officers, and now they have a distrust for it. Yeah, which there are some EAPs that are okay. It's just like the VA hospital, nobody wants to go to a VA hospital because they hear horror stories, but there are some that are okay. Yeah. But it spreads that huge blanket over everything that makes it bad. And that's where a lot of people feel they can't seek help because there's no one to trust.
Yeah. And if they can't trust them, spend your money elsewhere. Do something different. Give them people they can trust. Give them an outlet where they can go. And it's not automatically going to be their gun and their badge that's taken away. Like, get them help. And if that's what needs to happen, those are the steps that need to be taken. But give them a place to go, give them a trusted place.
Yep. Yeah. How do you get that message? Exactly what you said to command and through the command up to whether it's the training officer that's given all the responsibility because the chief says you handle it, or whether it actually is handled by the chief because it's a very small department. How do you get that message across to, the stripes that make the decisions so that your information is passed down? Because we all know that talk to the hand, those gatekeepers, those, the command that just is like, oh, we can't have that in our department. We can't discuss that. No.
Right. So, I mean, right now, the way that I always do it and like working and knowing a lot of administrators is always go to your administrators with a plan, go with paper, go with a plan. That's what, they're administrators. They want to know what's the cost, what do we have to do, how many people is it going to take, have a plan. And so that's why I'm kind of working with agencies, on different ranges, like putting a policy together. Like right now I have one that's put together a great policy because they want to be prepared before and they want to be prepared after. And so they're working on that to take it to their chief, to their admin to say, we need to put this policy in place. This is what it will take. And so I think, just like any boss, go with a plan. We can help you. There are a lot of great organizations, a lot of great information out there to be able to come up with a plan. What do you want to do? Is it based on how many officers does your agency have? I'm working with one right now that has 10 and another one that has 65 and another one that has 1,200. So that's very different policies and guidelines across the board. But I think the bottom line is you have to have a plan when you're going up to the top.
Right. Because
that's what they want to see.
Even the smallest of plans, if it's a good plan in place, will work.
Yeah.
In a 6-man department, it will work in a 1,200 person department. If the plan works, it works for everybody. I like to hear that you have officers, you have peer support groups that are bringing those plans. To me, if a department says, or officers turn around and say, let's put a plan together and let's present this. Right there shows that there's some sort of comfort zone that they're able to present this to their upper staff. So that shows, even if they deny that plan, at least they're accepting of it. You know, they
Yeah.
feel comfortable enough to address it,
Yeah.
which I think is pretty brave. That's a really brave first step already.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of good information to be put together that costs departments zero. I mean, it costs $0 to do some of this stuff, to have plans in places and people you can talk to. You know, some of it doesn't cost them anything.
Right.
And you know, that's a lot of it. What's this going to cost? What's this going to cost?
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
the big budget.
Well, this, I mean, you fill in such an incredible gap in, like I said, in the follow-up, because it's a no-brainer. There's no thinking. It's pick up the phone, go on the website, get yourself registered, register somebody that needs it, drive them to the airport. But you guys provide that safety net, like I laid out that picture in the beginning. And so, and for everybody watching, survivorsofbluesuicide.org, that is the website. Please visit the website. There is so much. It's so well done. First of all, congratulations on it.
Yes,
and the information, it's, you know, it's sometimes hard to read if you're in the moment. You know, if this is you and you are a survivor, take the time, let somebody else come alongside you and walk with you and help you out. There's no shame in that, whether you are a partner, whether you are a surviving spouse, and then we can't forget about the kiddos, the parents. It's just, thank you doesn't seem like enough to say to you for what you guys do. I want to give you the floor now, and just, you know, if you're going to give a message to first responders or family members of first responders that are listening out there, what would your message be tonight to them?
I mean, take care of yourselves. I know that is so oversaid, but take the time. You know, if you're out working the streets, really take the time, talk to your family, communicate. You're not alone. You're absolutely not alone out there. Whether you are a family member who has lost an officer to suicide, there is somebody there for you. We have people, we have a network, friendship. If you're an officer that's struggling, that doesn't know who to talk to, call us, because we have other officers that have been in the same shoes. That's the bottom line. You're not alone out there. You have lots of people, lots of support.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you. And that's truly what it is. They're not alone.
No.
It may feel like it. You may feel alone at the moment, but you know, take it from the three faces on this screen. You are not alone. We've been there, and we want to be there to give you a hand up and some help. And so thank you so much.
Thank
Laurie,
you guys. This was awesome. I could talk for another hour with you guys.
Yeah, we've got lots of great comments. People like, this is great information. Thank you so much. And
it's an honor.
And yeah, we will definitely be in touch, folks. Check it out again. The website is right there on the screen, and they truly are there to help you in so many different ways. So Laurie, thank you. We will be in touch.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Be safe out there, because I know you're on the road.
All right.
And,
you guys
yes,
too.
absolutely. All right.
Take
care.
Take care, Laurie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You know, survivorsofblue.org, man, if you know that has been impacted by a suicide, reach out to survivorsofbluesuicide.org, and they can help you. You know, they'll send you the information you need, even if it's not you, if it's a friend, family member, coworker, whatever it is. We have, our departments are not going to all pass this along. So we have to be the word. We have to be the voice. We have to get it out there. We have to let people know that these organizations are out there, and you're not alone, and they can help. And the
retired folk, and the folks, I say the retired folk,
right?
And if you're retired officers, you know, they're not. Hey, that's huge, because how many people retire? They walk out of the department. 5 years goes by. They're separated from the badge. They don't have anything. They don't feel like they belong. they complete suicide. And
Yep.
that's a big gap, because it's just like, oh yeah, hey, I knew that guy. Wait, he or she did what? I mean,
Right.
So that's a big gap that they fill. And again, we can't thank them enough. And for Laurie for coming on and explaining. And they're speaking of agencies, there are so many agencies, so many nonprofits out there that are casting that wide safety net. Okay. We talk about this in the workshop. It is the most courageous thing that you can do for yourself to ask for help, because we get trained to do our jobs that are dangerous. Look, nobody else can do it. If it was easy, everybody could do it, right? We already know it's not easy, right? We're trained at a high level. And in that training, we kind of lose the grasp that we've got to take care of ourselves. We can't serve. Compassion fatigue. Laurie said it perfectly. We've got to take care of ourselves. And when we can't, it's okay. It is absolutely okay. Reach out, get the help you need. Confidential. 99.9% of the programs are confidential, just like ours. And so there is help out there. Hey, a big thing that really helped me kind of reconnect once I got to Texas, more than a decade in law enforcement, leave law enforcement, move to Texas, because we were looking for change of pace and lifestyle, because stuff was crazy on the East Coast. But for you too, John. And it started, my journey with Carry the Load started in 2015 when I got introduced to there. I saw that. Yep. To the organization. And it was just a matter of going down there. A friend had mentioned it. I went to a local fundraiser, and I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I was surrounded by the family that I had lost, that I had no connection with. And I didn't know a lot of people there. And fast forward from 2015 to now 2022, even in the midst of the pandemic last year, we were able to help raise $2 million, okay, for Carry the Load. I've got the banner up here, carrytheload.org. I never thought in a million years, first, that John, you and I would start a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Okay. That's first off. And second, that 3 years into it, we would have the opportunity to become national nonprofit partners.
Yes.
Carry the Load. Okay. For those of you guys who don't know Carry the Load, they are a national nonprofit organization that gives back to our military, to our veterans, to our first responders, to our law enforcement. They are in the thick of it. They have got year-round events. And right now, across the United States, they have 5 relays going. One started on the West Coast, one's in the Midwest, one's on the East Coast, and the one's in the South. And then there's 2 in the Midwest. They all will culminate and come together over Memorial Day weekend, which is Sunday, the 29th of May, and Monday, the 30th. Reverchon Park in Dallas. If you are in or around, if you have a 2-hour drive, come to Dallas and take part in this. It is a family-friendly event. We're bringing back the true meaning of Memorial Day. And so what does that mean right now? We are in crunch time, okay? We have a team. It's called Team A Badge of Honor. Like I say, we're national nonprofit partners. We're in crunch time, and we're in really hard times right now. God bless everybody who has answered the call to donate to through us, through our own fundraisers on Facebook, through the team page, because it all funnels into the same place. We know that it's tough out there. Freaking gas prices are going up through the roof. Grocery stores, we got to take care of our families and everything. I just want to get across that the money raised through all of the teams that participate, okay, our goal is $2 million. Hopefully we'll get more than $2 million, not ours, a team of Badge of Honor, carry the load. That money doesn't stay at carry the load. That money goes to organizations that serve people just like we talked with Laurie Putnam.
Right. Serving that community.
To serve in the communities, to bring programming for suicide prevention, for mental health, for our first responders, to help cast an even wider safety net to continue to smash the stigma, okay? For our 22 a day, our veterans that are still suffering because everybody cannot get help at the VA, okay? There are programs that will surround them and bring them the funds that they need. The whole point is we are one giant family as a country. And for 1 second, if you can't make it to Dallas for the 2-day event, just take a pause and think about how, even if it's $1, $1, your $1 will be spread out to organizations across the United States that will do amazing things for so many people. So if you have a second, please visit carrytheload.org. When you get on the page, okay, don't hit the donate button. Look for Team A Badge of Honor, okay? Donate through there because 100% of your money is going to go to preventing, first of all, the awareness piece that we talk about, and also preventing suicide in our first responder community. And that first responder community includes a whole lot of veterans, and we meet them every single day. Okay. So thank you in advance. Thank you to those that are on our honor roll that have already donated. We so appreciate, we send all the love to you, and get your friends out there. Like I said, even if it's $1, it goes a really long way.
Every dollar adds up.
Yeah.
Every dollar counts.
Yeah. So look for our fundraisers on our Facebook pages, on a Badge of Honors page. And please we know it's tough out there. Dig deep. Just know that your money is going to an absolutely worthy cause. Following Memorial Day, June 11th, Saturday, June 11th, confirmed it today. Heroes on the Water. We are having a joint event here at Lake Ray Hubbard, which covers Garland, Rowlett, and Rockwall. Okay, that's where the lake. That's how big the lake is. Okay, so and Heath, Texas. If you're in and around there, it starts at 8 a.m. and we'll finish when we finish. But we're going to get on the water at 8 a.m. Here's the key. There's only 13 boats. Okay. If you like kayak fishing, if you want to get out on the water, go to abadgeofhonor.com and hit the contact. You can even call me. My cell phone number is on there. Okay. I will take verbal reservations until we get that link up. We're working on the link. Okay. I will take verbal reservations for the boats. We only have 13. And last time I checked, me, John, Jeff, and John, there's 4. Okay. There's 4 for us to get out on the water. All right. So maybe there's a little less than 13 boats left, but you want to make I will take your verbal reservation. I will get it down. When the link is up, I can register you. or I can send you the link, or we can do it together. Okay. So that is in June 11th. Mark your calendars. We'll be putting out some more information. And then Laurie said, if you are a survivor of blue suicide, July 23rd and 24th in Indianapolis, go to survivorsofbluesuicide.org and you can register for that. Keep visiting badgeofhonor.com. We've got a calendar on there, and we are putting out events as we speak. And we'll get them all out there. We've got some incredible fundraisers coming up for ourselves, and as soon as
golf outing coming up.
Huh?
We'll have a golf outing coming up
for next year, but I'm talking about the ones that may be happening in August and October of this year that are freaking awesome.
Right.
So we'll get those up as soon as we can. To all of our first responders out there, we are praying for you every day, and thank you for putting yourselves out there, your lives on the line for your communities. God bless you all for all of our troops overseas, keeping us safe here at home, providing us the freedom to keep doing the show. We thank you so much for those veterans who fought for everything that we still fight for today. Okay. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you for your service. And you are in our thoughts and prayers as well. John, take us home.
Let's change the culture. Let's change the stigma, and let's make the uncomfortable more comfortable. Let's ask the hard questions. Let's do the follow-ups, like Laurie said. Let's make sure that we don't leave anybody behind or leave anybody hanging. And that's the best we can do for each other. Let's have compassion, empathy, and thought for the families. Let's be there. Let's forget. And it's not it's out of sight, out of mind. It's we will be there forever. So
absolutely.
So until then, just let's make sure we and what's predictable is preventable. If we see something, let's say something. Let's address it. Let's fix it before it becomes an issue. So that's about it, Sam. And if you could be anything, just please be kind.
All right. We'll see you the next show, which is Wednesday, June 1st, everybody.
All right. Take care, Sam.
Night.
Night.